Let us pray. Heavenly Father, center us, open us, prepare us to welcome whatever it is that you may call us to do. In the sharing of these words, may truth be spoken and only truth be heard. Amen. So as I mentioned earlier, we all have different gifts, and different gifts in ministry, because you're all part of that ministry in your everyday. We've all been ordained at birth to go forward and serve. And that's a pretty exciting thing to hear. Often we go about our day-to-day and we don't think about that. We may hold the door for someone, we may say hello, we may kneel down and talk to a child. It's all our ministry. It's what we do to serve other people. It's just something to ponder on, because we don't often think about life that way. When I was preparing the sermon, I must confess that sermon writing is a very, very challenging thing for me. Although 4 years ago I went to Huron and I took a course called homiletics to learn how to write sermons, I still struggle with it. I may sit at my computer for days and I get blocked up. And here's something that I come to realize. First of all, I don't have to be a great sermon writer. I've given myself permission, actually laugh at myself a little bit, for all the pressure that we put on ourselves to do things that don't come naturally. And so I decided that I would, last service that I did an interview. I'm going to be doing one of those here on the 7th of July. And I'll just leave you with that. I'm going to interview someone in your congregation. And this morning I want to talk about living life. Living a life of love. And learning to not take ourselves so seriously when perhaps we can't accomplish something that others find easy to accomplish. That it's okay. It is okay. So I just wanted to just kind of encapsulate what we're going to talk about this morning. As I mentioned earlier, like summer's here. Summer is here. We saw signs of summer a bit ago when we could hear the birds chirping in the early morning. What a beautiful sound. When we actually started to open our windows up, to let the fresh air come in, to clean the house out from the winter, where things seem to be locked up and the air can get stagnant. Winter can be a very dark time. But now it's getting lighter earlier, and we can hear the sounds of creation coming into our homes. I love that. I also love when I can see the scurrying of the mama bird, and I think the daddy bird too. I think I see robins in pairs, kind of, and cardinals in pairs, looking after the babies. And then when you can see the babies being taught how to fly, how exciting is that? I find that very exciting. But it makes me step back and think about my own children. My own children. When I was a very young woman, I have two boys. They both live in the West. And when they were little, I struggled. I was a single mom. I struggled with certain things with raising my children. My wisest counsel was my mother. I'd call her. She lives in Nova Scotia. And I'd say, Mama, I don't know what to do. This is happening, that's happening. And she said, you just do the best you can. And always remember what you're doing is you're helping them to grow their wings, so that one day they'll have the ability to fly, just like we had to do when we let you leave. And it broke my heart to see you go. But I knew that I'd worked very hard to teach you the things in life that will sustain you so that you can fly. So now when I see baby birds, that comes back to me. my mother's bird sang, because I know one day those birds are going to fly the nest too, just like all of us did. There's a lot of other things going on that are pure signs of summer. This morning when we were heading over here, the big discussion was, which way do we go? Where's the construction in the city? Right? We try to dodge it, but it just seems to be everywhere. We're not understanding how they make the schedule. It's kind of hard to understand that. But I said to Dale, I came here on my own without Dale once he was out west. And I put it in my GPS. And the GPS took me a different route. It took us 12 minutes to get here from the other side of the city. No construction. No construction. So we figured that out this morning, and hopefully we have the same blessing when we're flying over to Trinity a little bit later. The other thing is the gardening. Yesterday we spent some time doing gardening. I did something I've never done before yesterday. I transplanted plants. And I have to say, getting my hands into that soil gave me a little bit of a rush. It was like, this is really cool. This is nature. This is summer. Dale did a beautiful job planting flowers and cutting up hostas, and it was not what we had planned at all. Which brings us to another thing in life. Things happen that we don't plan to happen. But when you're open, the things that actually do happen can be equally as magical, if not more magical. The beauty of summer, the changing of a season. Just like in our lives, there are seasons in our lives. There's a time, like in Ecclesiastes, there's a time to grow, there's a time to weep, there's a time to rejoice, there's a season for everything. And sometimes life will just take us through those seasons as we do lose our loved ones as they go on to their next home, or when a baby is born equally. I think about our breath, right? From that one breath in, when we're born, and then the cry, and that last breath. And we cry. Seasons are like that, life is like that. The cycles can be up and down. In Pentecost, we celebrate cycles. We're in a cycle of rejuvenation, similar to summer. A cycle of hope, a cycle of love. This time when we can settle in and really celebrate our creation. So much has happened leading up to this time. But it's important for us to just soak it in, like we soak in the beautiful new rays of the sun that do rejuvenate us. That shot of vitamin D that we've been lacking all winter. It often feels that way throughout our lives. I recall feeling that when I experienced my first time coming here. I was so nervous. So nervous. I wasn't at Trinity, where I knew people. I was meeting you all for the very first time, and I do remember it well. How warmly I was welcomed, just like today. How gracious you all were when I struggled through my sermons, which I still do, and messed up the music a little bit, which I still do. But it's so nice to be in a safe place. And thank you for welcoming us back, Jim, because it was just an exciting drive over here. Can't wait to get to Zion. And we've been blessed to be able to have Heather come and be with us at Trinity. Life just has its way of bringing you through so many different seasons and the changes of life that when we become open, they're truly exciting. And there's also that hope and promise of knowing that even through our darker days, we have the community of love to surround us, to help us, to carry us, to grieve with us, and then to sit and celebrate and laugh about the journeys of those that have gone before us, those special moments, those special memories that we hold on to like treasures in our hearts. And we all carry those. None of us leave this earth without experience those opportunities to revisit those treasures in our hearts that our loved ones have created for us to hold on to. And it's truly a blessing. It truly is. In our reading today, we're speaking about a tribe of people, human souls, that had struggled in their life because of their governance, the laws that they were told they must live under. And then Christ came into this world, was sent to help us be free, to help us enjoy that life that was promised to us. And isn't it amazing at that time that they embraced what we embrace here today? So we're no different. We're no different than they are. We're all just people living in a different space and time that gather together and celebrate that we are all one with Christ. We're not segregated anymore. Our religion is love. There's no more Jews or Gentiles. No more slaves or frees. If we look at life that way. Now we do know that on this planet there still does exist that form of living. But what a blessing that we can change things one person at a time. And through the power of prayer, I believe in the power of prayer. Because prayer connects us with our Creator. Prayer is not magic. It's not like, putting a penny in a wishing well and saying, I hope I get a new bike tomorrow morning when I wake up. Prayer is about connecting with the divine. Prayer is about that. Prayer is about connecting with each other. Prayer is about love when we pray for one another. As those that pray for the Galatians, that pray for us. And as we pray for others in the world. Because it is a sad state that goes on in different parts of this world, and there's so many uncontrollables as well. We can't control the weather, for instance. We can't control the devastation that exists on the planet due to climate. But we can change our own world and what we do in our homes. We can change each other's lives by how we reach out to each other. The Galatians were wonderful people. But we are all wonderful people as well, living the same life, knowing that we are all one in Christ. And we carry that light within us. To me, that's an exciting, exciting thing. Carrying that light and being able to shine it forward. We never ever know what someone else is going through, truly out there in the world when we're out living our day-to-day lives in our workplaces or, out running errands, whatever it is we're doing, how we're going to affect someone else's life. But living as one, carrying that one divine light inside of us to shine is just such an incredible gift that we can give to this world. It's very, very exciting. And that sound right now, just listen. And she stops. I hear babies crying. I watch them grow. What a wonderful world. I remember when my grandmother passed away, I had just had Kyle, my youngest. He was 6 weeks old. And I went to Hamilton for the funeral. It was the first time that the family had met Kyle. My dad was reading the eulogy, and Kyle started to cry. It was the most magical moment, representing the circle of life, new life, and how it changed the energy in the room as we were celebrating my grandmother's life. She was a fascinating woman. Thank you for that little cry there to remind me of that moment. One of those treasures again that we get to carry. We speak about faith and freedom and the power of laughter and love in our lives. Some things are hard to laugh at, but there is healing in the laughter, because the laughter will come from a story. I try to envision when I'm reading scripture and discerning scripture and how am I going to weave that scripture into a sermon. And I could envision the people that we spoke of today, that tribe of people, that gathering of people, that community of people, the Galatians sitting around and feeling that freedom and laughing with joy, being filled with joy. Often it's hard to find joy because life isn't rosy. It isn't sunshine and lollipops and rainbows. It isn't. That's fact. We navigate through those things because we have people that we can lean on. And somewhere in there we'll find ourselves in a situation where we're having a conversation and we will laugh. We will laugh. And sometimes we have to laugh at ourselves because we take ourselves too seriously a lot of the time. And our life is designed to be lived with love and joy. We're created in the likeness of our Creator to love and love ourselves and love one another. I'm going to share a brief story of an encounter that I had when I travel back and forth to Nova Scotia quite a bit. I'm going to step away here. And to visit my family, my mom and my dad. And I have some two living uncles and an aunt, and a lot of cousins in Nova Scotia. And Dale was traveling with me at this particular occasion. We were waiting to catch the airplane in Hamilton. The plane was delayed, as usually planes are. And so we decided that we would have a little snack, and they have a little area there. So we sat down and we had something to eat, and there was a table behind us, and they were what we call maybe power drinking, right? They were getting ready to get on the plane. And so we finally boarded, and everyone boarded the plane, including the table that was behind us. And we weren't on the plane 10 minutes, and there was an incident where one of the passengers assaulted a stewardess. So we were removed from the plane, and we sat in the airport for about maybe 6 hours. But I met a woman just briefly while we had that short little time on the plane, and she was traveling from Nova Scotia, from Hamilton back to Nova Scotia, and we struck up a conversation. And so then we had our time in the airport to continue that conversation. And so we friended each other on Facebook, because that's what we do now. We friend each other on Facebook. And we stayed in touch a bit, and I shared a bit about my journey with my father, and she really didn't tell me a lot of information about why she was traveling back and forth. But as the months unfolded, she started to open up with me through Messenger. And I came to find out that this woman was escaping an abusive home with her children. And she was just trying to figure out where she was going to go. And in that sharing, it occurred to me that we had come together for a reason. She also, her career, her occupation is she works with people that are palliative in hospitals and long-term care. And she also became a great resource for me as I'm navigating through the final stages of my father's life. And through that encounter, we found a connection. It was incredible. people. That's what happens. And when you share something, it was a pretty traumatic, plain experience. Most unlikely bonds form. It's an incredible thing. And in closing, I know that today I really wanted to talk about how important it is to be open and to share our light. Because we don't know who's escaping what. We don't know if someone has a loved one in hospital, or they've experienced a deep, sad loss. Conversely, we don't know, we just don't know what we don't know about people until we find ourselves in a situation where we can get to know them on a Christ-centered level. The good news is we all have that within us. We all have that ability. We are all called. We all have a ministry to serve. And I'm so grateful we get to share this journey together. That is the most wonderful news of all.